in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm going to stay there. I was with an organization called Tracy's Kids, who worked in Children's Methodist Hospital. When I was looking for an internship, there were only about 5 board-certified art therapists in San Antonio. So I was really, really scared that I wasn't going to find anything. And I kept coming back to this organization called Tracy's Kids. They provide pediatric medical art therapy in the Cancer and Blood Center. So I was working in the Children's Cancer and Blood Center daily. And the typical day was to, actually, one important thing is to note that every single morning that I went in, there was always a meeting. There's a meeting of nurses, doctors, neurosurgeons. There's a team of professionals that all meet together to talk about the treatment. And then there's the psychosocial team, which I was a part of as the art therapist, working beside another art therapist, Kathleen, who was already there. So, sorry, I'm really nervous. So, pretty much art therapy was there to provide support to the children and the families who were going through cancer, surgeries, chemotherapy, blood transfusions, any of those processes that they had to go through while they were there. It included outpatient services. So in the mornings, I would go to my meetings, and then I would work in the mornings at the outpatient center where children would come in. Maybe they had a lumbar puncture that morning, and they would come in. Some of them had blood work to do. Some of them actually came in for chemotherapy. So during that time period, we had an open studio where the kids could come with their families if they were up to it, if they felt like they wanted to participate. And the families, the parents would also come, usually with them, and sometimes they would create art as well. So in the afternoons, we would go to the inpatient side. So that was on the other side of the hospital, and it's an old hospital. I mean, the facility I was in the mornings was really nice and newer, but the inpatient was in an old part of the hospital, and we had a cart that we had to carry. And we pushed through the hospital every single day. So you can imagine, you've got paint flying off, you've got glitter flying everywhere, and doctors or random people in the hospital would be like, wow, where are you guys going? Follow us, we're doing art there. So it was pretty cool. That poor cart, man, has been knocked into walls and elevators. So we'd spend 2 hours in the afternoon on the inpatient side with families and children who were there. Sometimes they would have to stay for, 3 months at a time. And so that was about 2 to 4, and we also had an open studio. We could either go into the room and meet with them if they couldn't leave their room, or there was an open studio. There was an open studio where they could all kind of meet. And that was a nice little place because a lot of times when families are in different rooms, they don't come out and meet each other. And in a situation like this, they're able to connect with each other and talk about what they're going through, talk about the type of cancer they have, or, provide each other the support. So from 2 to 4 every day, we were there in that open studio setting for the inpatient clients. Sometimes we had clients who were in the pediatric intensive care unit, so we would have to take materials with us, limited amount of materials, and go to their rooms. The situations there were a little bit different. Sometimes the children weren't able to actually create art. You were creating art for them. They were directing you with color or what materials they wanted you to use, whether it be paint or just a marker or glitter. Glitter is always popular. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about working with another art therapist, a professional. I learned a lot about being comfortable in the art therapist that I am and what I've learned here in Southwestern and incorporating that into who I want to be as a professional. there was respecting, one of the biggest things was respecting people's beliefs about an afterlife. As much as you read and study about grief and loss, it was very different for me to be in a situation working with a child who was physically kind of deteriorating, and working with the family at the same time, how respecting their process and also, honoring my own process and kind of being a part of that with the family. Sorry, I feel like I need to breathe. So I created a video, and there were days where I showed up and I was like, why am I doing this? I really tried to follow what the universe was telling me I was supposed to be doing, where I was supposed to be. I had to have faith in that. And, still sometimes I look back and I'm like, well, I see all these things that happened. These great things like news and media, they came in to interview the kids. There was a lot more awareness brought to the community about art therapy and what Tracy's Kids was bringing to the community. So there were a lot of great things that happened. And so at those times where I really felt like I was like, why am I here? What am I doing? I'm waking up at 5:15, gotta fight the traffic. That was, San Antonio is a big city. How many people do that?
I think like 1.5 million.
So, hopefully in the future, going back to that, really just having faith and just showing up for those days that I did not want to show up. Where I was afraid to see what that child was going to look like because the condition is getting worse. Those images, and I know I was thankful to have Michelle to talk to about it. It was a lot, but it was also a beautiful process, and I was thankful to be a part of that with the family.